So I figured I'd strike this one while the iron is hot. Let's talk about a recent show that everyone seems to be talking about, My Adventures with Superman. This won't be too long of a review, since I do want to do this in 2 parts. Part 1 will be as spoiler free as I can get, but also only conveying my feelings of the show as of episode 4, while part 2 will come out much later after I've finished the show, which unfortunately won't happen for a few weeks, so please be patient on that. Many people have had a lot of positive and negative things to say about the show, so people usually lump the show into one of 2 buckets. It's either a great show or it's a terrible show. What are my thoughts? Well, I guess we'll just have to find out in this video. So let's start with the positive. So I think the way that they have adapted Superman is pretty unique here, as it focuses more on Clark Kent over Superman. Does that make sense? Well, let me clarify. In recent depictions of Superman, many fans, including myself, have found that the trope of Superman as the Jesus figure to be a very boring depiction. It's overused. So what's refreshing here is the human aspect of Superman. Rather than building up Clark Kent around the identity of Superman, it instead builds Superman around the alias that is Clark Kent. It's not Superman trying to be a hero that the world needs, it is instead built around the idea that Clark is just a normal person who wants nothing more than to just be treated like everybody else, but then choosing that he has to be Superman for the greater good. This then goes into what I think is an amazing dynamic that I actually love, and that's where I segue into Lois Lane, who got a makeover this time around, and I actually love her design here. Her interactions with Clark are adorable, and it's something super wholesome, and I'm so glad that the show writers didn't go the same route that Hollywood has been going down lately. It's such a refreshing thing to me to see. In most recent media, it focuses on this idea that women must be independent and don't want or need a man, and will actively avoid any romance. Doing so in this show would completely ruin the idea of Superman, where if you know anything about the comics at all, his morality hinges on his relationship with Lois Lane. But they also didn't just make Lois a damsel in distress either. Now, it's not that I inherently hate any of these stereotypes, but they have been overused in many forms of media as of late, and it's refreshing to see that they drew the line in the middle rather than just picking one. This helps tie together what I was getting at earlier, which is the dynamic between Clark and Lois. In the first frames of the show, you see Clark and Lois both getting ready to intern at the Daily Planet. Clark is trying to do his best not to stand out and just be like a normal person, whereas Lois is doing the opposite. She is trying to be unique and stand out in a world where everyone is just the same. And it's a great little dynamic that they got going on. And I can't stress this enough. The moments between them are just so cute. They are still building a romance between them, while simultaneously giving Lois a much more nuanced approach to her personality. Now, not everything about their character traits are exactly flawless writing, but we'll get into that. Now, Jimmy Olsen is a character that I want to like, but as things stand now, he's more of a goofy side character more than anything else. So I hope they expand on him more, but for now, let's move on. Something I think they did do very well was Clark learning about his lineage. Now, we barely get anything, but it's enough to understand. But we all know his origins, so it's not really a spoiler, but I do appreciate how Clark can't understand his father because he's speaking a literal alien language. That's a very nice touch. And it's not dragged on, thank God, because everyone knows Superman's origin story at this point. Something else I surprisingly enjoyed was the art style. Though not perfect, as I feel it tried too hard to emulate anime style fighting and movement. And it does look very clean, and it has a super cute look to it, which is surprising given that it's an Adult Swim show, but we'll get into that too. The character designs are pretty cool and are a welcome change, but I will say I feel it could have given itself more of a unique identity if it didn't try so hard to emulate anime styled scenes. Which segues perfectly into the issues that I have with this show. For as much as I love the more nuanced approach to Lois Lane, the execution sometimes comes off poorly. The writing of the show falls a bit short as it tries too hard to not make Lois and Jimmy feel like helpless side characters. That the writing comes off as too clunky by having things happen simply to push the plot forward while also making it to where Lois and Jimmy can have hero moments too, just to avoid being problematic. Now, although I agree that you should have it to where you shouldn't just make Lois and Jimmy people who need saving at every crisis, but there are better ways to write it than how they've done it so far. There are also certain aspects to Lois' personality that ticks me off sometimes, but I want to avoid spoilers in this video, so that will have to come up in part 2, but believe me, I'll get into that. There are just certain overused tropes that they use in this show that I feel like they should have avoided, because when they happen, I cringe at it, because it could have been handled so much better. Also, what the hell did they do to my boy Slade? That is not Slade. I'm sorry, but you did this man dirty. Also, I absolutely hate it when a company tries to make diversity a selling point to a show meant for kids. I'm going to tell you right now, kids do not give two rats' asses about how diverse a show is. I grew up watching all kinds of kid shows, and Static Shock was my favorite hero for like 8 years straight, and it had nothing to do with his race. So please stop doing this. Just sell it on its own merit. Please, for the love of God. Thank you. Last thing I'll touch upon is this. Why was the show marketed for young kids, then suddenly thrown onto Adult Swim? It's not like the show got more adult rated, the show remained the same, not even showing any mature themes or even blood, and it doesn't even have real guns, so I don't see the point. And then even after all that, you put it behind an HBO Max paywall? Just throw that shit on Cartoon Network, please. What were you guys thinking? Anyways, that's all I have for part 1, talking about episodes 1 through 4. I'll finish up the other episodes and continue in a more spoil-filled setting so I can go into more detail. What are you guys' thoughts on the show? Personally, I think the show was wonderful, but incredibly flawed in many ways. Still better than many newer cartoons, so I'll give it a passing grade so far. We'll see how my thoughts change when I finish watching the show. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and consider subscribing for more if you guys enjoyed, and hit that notification bell for more videos like this. Also, check out all my other socials in the description, as well as checking out my brand new Patreon if you guys want to support me further. And until next time, guys, stay hype, stay awesome, stay weird, and be nice to each other. I'm Simon Tech Wolf, and I'll see you guys next time.